It's Rut and River.
Yes.
Correct.
R-U-T.
I rest my beard hair on it.
And then you know you're there.
Like a nice, gentle little pillow for my beard.
Right.
And then I'm all up in it.
Oh.
I'm like Kobe beef for sharks.
Can I ask you, what made you guys call me up about, well, this?
That's what tickles our fancy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thought the Rocky Mountains would be rockier.
John Denver is not accurate.
Man.
A guy like you, who has absolutely no clue, and I can hear it in your voice, that, I mean, you're a blank canvas. I mean, I can just start with you like from scratch.
You're going to tell me, a grown man, you're telling me what lure to use and how to fish?
You guys didn't snap your whopper plopper off either, though.
Sorry,
I blew up over that. And we are back. You are listening to the Rut River Pursuit podcast. This is Reality Outdoor Radio, where our mission is to get you in the outdoors by connecting you with the people, skills, and products you can trust.
You can always trust them.
You can trust them.
You know you can. Mm-hmm. I'm Ryan. Who do I got with me tonight?
This is Brian.
Hey, it's Bucky.
I'm Will. Sounded just like him.
Hey, I'll tell you guys about this month's sponsor, and we're fired up for him. Smoke in the Grove. You can't get any more American than a good old barbecue competition.
Mm-hmm.
This year's Red Hot competition is being brought to you by Kenny's Market, your hometown market.
Love that market.
And is being held July 26th and 27th in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. Come on out Friday night to kick things off with the First Responder Cup, People's Choice Wing Competition, and cap off the night with some live entertainment by Brittany Opperman. And you'll not want to miss the main event on Saturday, where teams will be competing in a Kansas City Barbecue Society sanctioned state championship event. The winner qualifies for the Jack Daniels World Championship in Lynchburg, Tennessee, and the American Royale in Kansas City, Missouri.
My mouth's watering.
It's like a Royale cheese.
Mm-hmm. Teams will also be competing in the People's Choice Pork Contest. This colossal weekend will be capped off by a performance by Velveeta.
Mm-hmm.
Noise.
Get all the details by searching Smoke in the Grove on Facebook and Instagram, as well as the website, smokeinthegrove.com.
What's going on, fellas?
Nothing. How are you?
Oh, you know,
We didn't light the fire.
We're
bud.
sitting around the Sonic
Yeah,
Campfire.
we didn't light the fire.
Do
bud.
it, Bucky. We're around the Sonic Campfire. Oh, yeah. Our Sonic Campfire is going to be a little hotter than normal this week, though, boys.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because
Like an oven.
I'm just going to spill the beans.
Spill away.
What'd you do?
Where are we at?
We are currently sitting in Underhill Forge.
Yep.
That is correct.
It doesn't get much more American
No, it doesn't.
than sitting here beating on steel and forging. We're here with Jay Stekervetz at Underhill Forge. What's up, Jay?
Hey guys,
Jay.
how you doing? So this is really weird because I listen to your podcast all the time, and normally, all your guests call in, and this is amazing that you guys actually came here to visit me. I such an honor, guys.
We wouldn't want it any other way, bud, because Jay is local. He's in central Pennsylvania, just up the road from Castle de Will, and we thought, why not? We got to pop over, visit Jay. We were at the Forge not too long ago. Everybody heard about it ad nauseum, so we're not gonna beat that proverbial dead horse, as it were. But boy, did we have a good time.
Yes,
but
we
really,
did.
what we wanted to do, Jay, was we wanted to take an opportunity to really get to know you and get to know a little bit more about what you're doing here at Underhill Forge, so that everybody can maybe participate in that thing that we did a while back.
Oh, well, guys, shoot away. I mean, it's just great to be here.
Awesome. Tell us, for anybody that doesn't know already, how'd you get your start here at Underhill Forge? Let's start with where'd the name come from?
Oh gosh, actually, there's quite a story with that. To start off, I started in this business 24 years ago, and I started out making theatrical props, doing stuff for the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair and miscellaneous theater troupes, and it was all basic, almost like machining. It wasn't picking up a hammer and beating something, it wasn't blacksmithing. It was, I'm shaping stuff, and I'm making something that looks good from far away. It's great on stage, and it makes some noise, and there you go. I mean, it's exactly what a prop is supposed to be. But that got me interested in well, how was it actually done? And we didn't have the internet back then.
Right.
This is pre 1997 AOL kind of stuff.
Don't date
And
yourself.
yeah, I know. But it was so a lot of getting books and figuring this out. And we had an old old forge in the back of the shop, and I asked for permission if I could dig it out and start working on it, and I didn't know anything, and just getting it to burn was a hell of a chore.
Nice.
But it really it fired up the passion, and from there it was
Literally and figuratively.
yeah. From there it was you got to read this and read that, and experiment and try, and so it started out. It was an age where it wasn't so easy as to just go onto a webpage and find a blacksmithing group. You had to do stuff on your own. And it wasn't until much later that I found out that there's things like Pennsylvania.
There was not a band of blacksmiths running around.
No.
It's in the wild.
Like a local blacksmith club.
Surprisingly not. I mean, there weren't just roving bands of blacksmiths all across the countryside. But yeah, so that, just kind of progressed from there and, really started out as a hobby. I was still doing it, for making theatrical props. And then I became the demonstrating blacksmith at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. And
That's cool.
No way.
Yeah. Most people don't recognize me, when they see me out in person because all I ever wore was a kilt and boots.
Right.
Pretty much nothing else. But I was also a lot lighter
I'd
back
be
then.
eating turkey legs nonstop.
And I left, doing
They
that.
call me turkey leg, dude. 'Cause I'd have two of them.
Yeah, I stopped doing the demonstrations back in 2015. But in 2007 is when I started up Underhill. And how I had pretty much been able to afford to do this during the day was I was a restaurant manager and also a bartender. So we had this thing with a couple of other bars in town where we'd have this little slip of paper. Don't worry about it. We didn't get your beer. Mr. Underhill got your beer. It was a Fletch reference.
Underhill.
So there's that scene where he walks in and he's like, give me a scotch, any scotch, put it on Mr. Underhill's tab. Well, as a bartender, we all had Mr. Underhill's tab, and we took it so far that when a group of us would get together and we go out for dinner, it'd be Underhill party of 13, and eventually to the point where there were 3 different bars, 3 different bartenders that all use this. We ended up having a huge picnic for our regulars, and we called it the Underhill Family Picnic. And so it just started out as a joke between us, and our love for Fletch. And next thing you know, I'm like, I've got to keep the joke alive. And
now he has a forge.
I'm a huge Fletch fan.
Plus,
totally
it rolls off the
appreciate
tongue.
that.
People can actually pronounce it a lot better than, say, Ryan can pronounce Stekervetz.
Yeah.
So Jay, how did that work? I mean, you can research and look at techniques and what types of metal to use and how to get a forge and a fire going, but like trial and error, I would think.
So
was the process?
I think one of the things God's really blessed me with the ability that I can look at something and I know how it works. For instance, you're sitting here in the shop right now, and you look around the machinery. I've got a power hammer, 2 power hammers behind me, this rolling mill right here. No one makes this stuff. You have to figure it out on your own. And, I'm just blessed to have a mechanical mind like that where I can look at something and say, okay, this is kind of how it needs to be. And eventually, you get things to actually work. There's also a lot of failure with that as well. But you have to learn how to, roll with those mistakes. And, there's really, with teaching classes here, I see so many people that are like, oh, man, I made a mistake. I screwed this up. I did that, did this. It didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it. But when you're trying to learn a skill, I don't think there is such a thing as a failure. I think, you've got to look at that and say, well, how can I turn that around? What can I do to make this closer to my end vision? So, there's trial and error is one thing, but really there's no such thing as a screw up until the building burns down, I guess. But,
Right.
Still, it's, I've always just liked the trial and error method and been really good at, getting lucky, I guess, at picking these things up.
It's not a mistake. It's a product redesign.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I was told.
Yes, I believe I told you that on a very snowy day back in January, wasn't it?
January.
Yeah.
Man, was it that long?
But and you know, there are no real mistakes when you're forging something. If it doesn't turn out exactly as you like it, like Will just said, it's a product redesign.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this wasn't my original idea, but guess what? It kind of looks like this, so maybe we'll just go with it.
That's
and,
perfect.
you know, I see a lot of guys that, you know, obviously there's been a lot of resurgence, you know, with what I do, thanks to certain TV shows that have really popularized it, and see a lot of these young guys posting their first works online, and boy, you know, some what you guys made the other week, that, you know, you're far ahead of some of these guys starting out.
Huh?
I know, and I mean, I didn't want to tell you guys that at the time. I didn't want to inflate your egos, and I certainly don't want you guys like leaving your day jobs and, you know, taking over my business. But no, you did great.
Next week.
You know, but I think that's a lot of what we see is with these younger guys that maybe something doesn't turn out well, they don't always finish it.
I'm going to tell you this about finishing things. I've seen Bucky spearhead projects, but I never seen him love a project or a process as much as I've seen him make knives. I mean,
you should see him make a tomahawk.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Both are very cathartic.
He just, I mean, he works it until it's the way he wants it, and I can tell you that you probably already heard me say this, but like, again, some of his vision I didn't get it first, and I didn't have to because it's his. I understand that, but you brought something out of him back, you know, a couple of weeks ago. That was awesome.
You know, and I often say,
Will.
because I get guys, and I believe during that class, one or two of you may have actually said to me, "Is this right?" And my immediate reply is, "Why don't you ask the person who designed it?"
Oh boy.
Because
Profound.
that's you. It's, you know, it doesn't matter if it fits my hand.
I might use that again, bud.
But yeah, it's all about your vision. And, you know, I'm just a guy that helps people facilitate that.
I like the fact that you can be creative while you're doing it. And apart from the tomahawk, the knives, there was a lot more artistic interpretation to be had, I would think.
But it's also, you have to be a lot more delicate in what you're doing with that. I mean, especially, remember when we did the fillet knives, you know, that steel is 0.0625 inches. I mean, this is really, really thin.
Compared to the other two knives as well.
One screw up, you know, one little hesitation on that grinder, and boy, there you go, it's done.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Then we have to go for a product redesign.
Always a product redesign. But the knives, I got into a rhythm. We were making more than one, and the second day, just the process of the handles and like Will said, if you don't like something, there's really no point of no return. You know, you might have to refire something if you really wanted to make something major, but along the way, as long as you're not fired and hardened, I mean, you can go back and make some more passes on the sand or on the grinder. You can cut another shape to it. And then even in the process of the handles, you don't like something, go back.
That's one of the things I love about what I do is the fact that it's always open to interpretation. You know, there's guys that go and they assemble stuff in factories, and it has to be the exact same thing every single time. Yeah. And to me, that's very, you know, it's mind-numbing. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I want to be free. I want to create. And so there are some days where I walk into the shop and, gosh, all you have to do is ask Mac. You know, I'll walk in the shop and I'll sit there and not do anything. And then 2 days later, I come in and I'm a whirlwind because all of a sudden inspiration just struck. And, okay, wow, I want to do this. I want to do that. And, you know, it just, it free falls from there.
That makes me think of a question, and I wanted to ask you while we were down there the other week. What's the craziest thing, which is kind of a broad question probably for you guys, haven't hung out with you for a while, but what's the craziest thing you guys have ever forged?
Ooh, I've done wagon repair for the Amish. I did part of a school bell for an old schoolhouse. However, I think the craziest thing that I ever forged was I made a boar spear.
Really?
Wow.
And it wasn't so much that, it was a boar spear. I mean, that's just kind of cool. And I shipped it off. I still remember it was like $83 to ship this thing because it was so huge.
How long was it? How big of a spear was it?
Well, the spear from it's where it got hafted to the very tip of the spear, I think was somewhere around 18 or 19 inches.
Wow.
But then the customer wanted me to go ahead and make the full handle as well, the half for it.
Yeah.
And so I shipped it off and I didn't really think anything of it. And I was doing demonstrations at a Renaissance fair, and this person comes up to me, and she said, "Thank you. I really wanted to thank you for my boar spear."
Oh, wow.
That is cool.
And now I look over, and there's this skinny little girl who's about 5 foot nothing, probably
That's
weighed
average.
90
Just
pounds.
For the record, that's average.
Right. Well, she's like 90 pounds.
Tiny girl.
Sticking up
And
for
she
short
shows me pictures of the first boar that she got with this spear.
That's
and it just
incredible.
blew me away going, wow. I mean, I love it when somebody uses my tools. That's what they're there
Absolutely.
for. However, to see this girl and then pictures of her with this giant boar, it just blew me away. It was
That is
probably
cool.
the craziest thing that I could think of that I've made just because
Yeah.
of the whole
Well,
situation.
no, that's a great example. And not only was it pretty crazy, but you actually get to see it used for its purpose. So that's
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of, especially when you're dealing with stuff that's sometimes kind of off the wall,
Yeah.
like a boar spear. Yes, nowadays I think there's more and more people doing boar hunting, but there's also, I was primarily dealing with collectors, guys that wanted something to hang on the
pieces.
basement wall.
Right. And
Yeah.
there's no doubt that what you're creating down there is art. I mean, it really is. What we put together the other week was absolutely gorgeous. You look at this stuff as you're putting it together, maybe, as Will pointed out, it's Bucky's vision, right? And he can kind of see it, and you can get an idea of it. But, man, just something as simple as hitting the handle with some linseed oil and watching the color start to pop.
Oh yeah, and you see all
I
that
mean,
grain
it's-
coming out, and you see the fruits of your labor.
Right, right.
There's sometimes where you're working on something, man, this kind of looks like a turd. And then you start polishing, you start getting in
Right.
there.
You didn't have to pick
and-
on the one knife that I screwed up, but
Right.
Go on.
But no, especially some of the woods that we use, they don't look that great in their raw form, but you start polishing and you start refining that grain, and it starts softening up, and then all of a sudden you hit it with that linseed oil, and it just, wow.
Something different.
And I mean, it could have looked just like an ordinary block that you might see in somebody's firewood pile. Mm-hmm. And,
It
we
turns
cut
into
down,
something
and
pretty special.
Like, wow, I can't believe that was hidden in there.
That's great.
And so that's just kind of cool. It's very rewarding to see
Yeah.
that.
And you did mention Mac
yes.
earlier, and it turns out we've been able to connect with him, and he's sitting in with us now too. So, Mac, how are you?
Hey, Mac.
I'm good. Great weekend with you guys,
Yeah,
hanging out this past week when you guys were in.
yeah,
It was.
yeah. We had a good time.
You guys kind of knocked it out of the park. You know what I mean? You got, 3 knives apiece? Almost 4.
Yeah,
You
more or
did
less.
4.
And
Will did 4.
it
right?
was
Pretty sure.
he snuck in an extra one on us.
Yeah.
They've known us so long that they get to take a few extra liberties here
Well,
and there.
yeah,
So.
that's usually how it goes, especially even like with our normal returning students
Right.
that come in and they take either, like the 1 day or the 2 day class, and even just the Tomahawk class.
Mm-hmm.
We become comfortable with our students. We spend a whole 2 days, 1 day or whatever, 12-hour period. And usually people are pretty open with us about their lives and what they do and stuff like that. So, we kind of created a little
Sometimes
bit
a
of
little bit too open.
a little bit too open. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. But, we kind of create this connection with some of these guys. And, we say, our door is usually always open
Yeah.
for returning students or people that are just local.
Right.
We're in here, usually Monday or Tuesday is our day off. Me or Jay might not be here depending on what we're doing, but we usually try to tell people, if there's a car down there and you see the doors open,
Pop in.
Or during the winter, if you see smoke coming out of the chimney.
Yeah.
Then you know we're probably
usually
here.
we're here.
So as it is, then you're helping Jay with the classes.
Yes.
Right. So you're actually instructing people and walking them through whatever the process might be you're working on at the time.
It's actually kind of a funny story.
That's where I was going with this, like how you guys met, how that came to be.
Yeah, I was doing this knife show in York, Pennsylvania, and I believe my son was helping me out.
Okay.
And this, you meet people, you talk to everyone. This guy walked by and started talking to me, and oh, hey, that sounds great. You do classes, and don't really think anything of it. Everyone says, oh, I'm going to look into your classes. I'm going to take it. Next thing I know, he shows up at the shop for a class.
I think I probably sat at your booth for maybe, I want to say maybe an hour, and we
had a great talk.
I actually ended up buying a knife from you as well.
Oh, that's right, you did.
I did. I still have that at my house.
Wow,
actually.
that's crazy.
I won't admit what state that knife is in right now. It needs a little bit TLC, but I ended up buying a knife from him, and so I saved up a little bit of money. About 6 or 7 months later, I signed up, came in, and had a great weekend. We made our knives. I was in there with a father and son, I believe it was. And that was the old shop in Mannheim. We came in, I made my 2 knives, we kind of hang out and just kind of...
I think what really struck me was the fact that
he never left.
Mac had a really good eye for detail.
Yeah.
He just had this great eye for detail, and I was watching him do the classes. And eventually, it's, oh, yeah, that's right, you're local, you're only down in York, just a couple of minutes down the road. Well, tell you what. Want to stop by during the week?
I think I actually admitted to you that I was like, hey, man, I kind of want to do this for a living. And you were like, yeah.
So it kind of got the ball rolling. And next thing I know, it's Max coming in and, okay, here's what I want you to do today.
Yeah.
Do this.
Yep.
I know it seems mindless, but, do this, do that. Okay, why don't you, work on this and certain projects here and there.
Would you say then he actually fell into like the role of an apprentice?
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
So this is still one of those trades that has the need for that, right?
Well,
you've got to learn.
There's really not
trade.
Too much schooling you can do. I mean,
right.
most people ask, well, did you go to school to learn this? And I always tell them, no, I dropped out of school to do this.
There are some tech schools that offer.
There's a lot of architectural
blacksmithing courses.
There's like architectural blacksmithing courses, like for big industrial type stuff. Yeah, you have to think even say a generator shaft for say like a big hydroelectric dam. Those are still technically forged.
Yep.
Huh.
They're pulling these big 50-ton pieces of steel and they're using these giant hydraulic presses, and it's still forging. That's industrial forging.
You can get on YouTube and you can see the industrial forging that they do. Okay. There's some really sketchy videos out of China. However, if you go and look up some of the American factories,
you should see their quench tank.
Cool
it
stuff.
Looks like an Olympic swimming pool.
Yep.
It's amazing for some of these giant things. But and then the other blacksmithing schools that are out there are actually farrier schools.
Yep.
Because a lot of times, anytime that I tell someone, "Oh, I'm a blacksmith,"
oh, you make horseshoes.
And they're like, "Oh,
please God, no."
Exactly.
Could you make me one to put over my door?
I could. I could. However, I don't know how it would be on a horse's foot.
Can you make belt buckles?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Bucky needs a rust belt.
We do need to make that.
We're going to make an order for a rust belt.
But yes.
So Jay, take us through one of your classes. You're speaking of these classes. So if somebody was interested and they called up on day 1, day 2,
I think we mentioned this before. I offer several different classes. We have our 2-day class, which is essentially 3 students come in. We make 2 knives over the course of 2 days. And much like what you guys got to experience, we do it by stock removal, which is when someone says they're a knife maker, generally stock removal is what they do. They're taking a bar of steel, they're cutting it down, they're grinding it, and then doing the heat treating, handling, and everything else.
Sometimes they don't even do the heat treating themselves.
No, they send it out.
Outsource that.
Okay.
But then when you hear someone say, "I'm a bladesmith," that's where the blacksmithing aspect comes in. Because there's a lot of guys that can sit in their basement or their home workshop and just grind stuff out, send it out, have it heat treated. When it comes back, they polish it up, they slap a handle on it, and there you go. They're a knife maker.
Yeah.
But in order to take that raw bar and forge it down to a point, forge your bevels in, get, basically you're utilizing that material to 100% of its capacity. And that's where bladesmithing comes in. So with our weekend knife making class, where it's 2 days, we touch on both of those.
Okay.
Because even as a hobbyist, there are certain people that would love to do this as a hobby. I believe someone mentioned that it's very cathartic. And it is. It's really relaxing,
Bucktooth.
It's, one of those things where, we do this, we show you the knife making aspect. And as someone who, say, lives in the city where you can't set up a forge, but, you could set up a grinder in your shed or whatever. And so it's nice to get that experience. The other thing is that it shows you a lot of the geometry
Like a hot
involved.
Yeah. You see a lot of the guys that, especially a lot of the city guys, they'll spend, close to $1,200 on their grinder setup because they don't necessarily have the time to learn how to grind freehand. They spend that $1,200 on a grinder plus a almost like a template setup to where they can just adjust their angle, put their piece right against their grinder.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that make different jigs.
So it's all about the end product for them. They just want to get the end product.
They want as close to machined look as they can for some of these people, where in here, a lot of in fact, all of our grinding is freehand.
Yeah.
We don't use any jigs at all.
Right.
And I can totally agree with that because I remember when we were back there, as you're grinding your knife, if you take off a little bit too much or, then your brain's like, that's not what I wanted it to look like.
Yeah.
So then, as you were saying, you go, your brain starts going, you're just like, all right, well, let me continue with this and see what it ends up like.
Along with that, it's blacksmiths don't make mistakes. We make smaller knives.
But it's kind of a natural thing where you start off with this machining process and you learn an awful lot more about it. I believe it was Will had asked me at one point. You had asked me at one point about the history of blacksmithing.
Yeah,
and I said, while it spans back, thousands of years. More importantly, here in this country, when you look back at, say, the turn of the 20th century,
right?
So we're just leaving the 1800s, and automobiles started hitting the scene.
Horseless carriages.
Yes, those horseless carriages, those pesky things. Well, think about it this way: the guys who were doing all of the wheels, the wheelwrights, who were making all the hardware for those, they were blacksmiths, and so as the wagon fell out of favor, their very first thing that they would do is kind of turn to fixing these horseless carriages. And so a lot of them became the first auto garages here in the country. And others ended up, there was a point in time in this country where, and for, the rest of the world, where there was no real distinguishing factor between a machinist and a blacksmith.
Yeah.
Because certain things you would forge and certain things you would machine. And, as we started advancing the technology, obviously the blacksmithing portion fell out of favor. And it really wasn't until, there were only a handful of bladesmiths here in this country in the 1950s. And it started out with a guy named Bill Moran, who pretty much single-handedly brought back the whole passion, the craft of forging knives. Mm-hmm. And by the 1960s, he came and sort of rediscovered or came up with his own version of what people call Damascus or pattern welded steel. So, it really wasn't until the 50s and the 60s where you started seeing people get back into blacksmithing because there really wasn't an industrial need for it aside from very small niches, here and there. And I guess the Navy has had blacksmiths working for their ships and, making those really hard to, replicate parts. Things that are kind of one-off. But if it's something that's duplicated an awful lot, it's better to set up a machining operation, and now you can crank out, several hundred pieces in a day.
Sure.
So paying someone, their hourly rate to be a blacksmith is really not cost productive.
That makes sense.
No, we're kind of expensive when it really comes down to things.
Yeah, it's one thing that, I get phone calls and people are like, well, how much would it cost to have this? And they email me a picture of a knife that was made in China, and it's $30 from Walmart or
it's hard
Target.
To compare. It really is.
And they want me to redo this. And I look at them, Well, I'm sorry, that's going to be $385. Why so much? Well, because you're paying my rate. You know, I don't work for 30 cents an hour.
No, but those are like you didn't just make those numbers up out of the air. You know, there's time and material, and you know,
we still lose money as a shop. We are horrible. Like the joke in the industry is, how do you become a millionaire bladesmith? And that's, you start off with $1 billion and you stop when you have $1 million left.
It's like honey.
Or fishing.
Yeah, but you know, we do this because this is what we love to do.
Yeah.
And while it might be a struggle to start out with, you know, in the end, we've found our own niche, and it's, you know, very rewarding.
We've told a few people over the years that, you know,
did you tell them to beat it? Like, come on,
scram, beat it. Yeah. No, actually, a lot of the people that are like, "Hey, man, you know, you guys teach classes. Are you worried about somebody taking over your market?" Well, no, considering between the two of us, we have 30+ years experience. You ain't catching up to us at that point.
And the other thing that I noticed right away from like whatever year it was when we first got introduced.
Oh, way back at that first Donegal show.
You guys have a style that is, in my opinion, unique to you.
I've always, when people walk in at shows, I mean, we very rarely do them. I'd love to start doing more shows, but you know, one of the things I always took as a great compliment is, "Wow, how old is this?" And then I look at them like, "Well, I just finished that one Thursday."
Yeah,
you're like, "No way! I want it to look as though it came out of your grandfather's gun cabinet."
Sure.
You know, I want it to have character. I want it to be heirloom quality. I want it to, you know, be able to be passed down.
That big term right there is heirloom quality. Is what we try to focus on. Like a lot of guys are saying, "Oh, I could have got the same knife for $10 down at Walmart." Yeah, well, in 15 years, that $10 blade from Walmart is going to be a little chunk of rust.
I don't know if I'm accurate or not in saying this, but it's
here we go.
Well, I'm sitting in the shop, and you know, and you hear about people using older things to repurpose these blades. Or to repurpose into blades or into other tools, such as a bandsaw out of an old sawmill, a leaf spring out of a truck. Are we doing that? I mean,
one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of that. We'll use things, you know, a leaf spring or a coil spring, to make our own tools. If I need a punch or a one-off chisel, you know, that's great for something here in the shop. But one of the things I often tell people is, you know, just imagine you don't know the previous life of that piece of steel that you found in a junkyard.
Yeah.
You also don't know what it is. You know, these grades. There's an actual science behind what we do.
Right. Anything can happen.
And so think about it this way: Bob had a 1-ton pickup truck, and you know, for multiple weekends every single year, he'd go and throw 3 tons of firewood in it and drive down an old logging road. Well, that thing's taken abuse. How many microfractures are in that? You know, and you start working on something. 4. You guys, you know, how many hours was it that you guys spent the other week making these knives? How disheartening would it be to find a microfracture in there, or you know, just any sort of like small crack, or you know, some sort of inclusion in that steel, just to have it break?
That makes sense.
And so, if you don't know the life of it, it's really not worth the risk of it. And you know, it's actually, when you look at your time, even as a hobbyist, it's so much more cost effective to go out and buy a fresh bar of steel, and especially from somebody that's reputable. Because when something does go wrong and you say, well, this was 1095 steel.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can research exactly why this problem occurred. However, if you say, I don't know, it was an old leaf spring. Well, was that 5160? Was it 9230? Was it, 8670M?
220.
What was it?
I totally get the passion project of, it's grandpa's whatever, and he's not around anymore, and you got the...
I actually have some leaf springs for my late grandfather that are in here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we don't.
No, but I can see both sides, and what you're, from a quality standpoint, absolutely.
When we're making something to sell, I think it's definitely, more worth our while to go ahead and get that fresh steel in. However, I had a buddy of mine who went to Nepal for 2 weeks with his daughter. Yeah. And he was describing this whole process of them taking old Jeep springs and forging kukris out of it. I just so happen to have this really huge, leaf spring. And, I started forging it down. It's a half-inch thick. This is huge material. And just to see what they were doing, and I don't have primitive tools like they're using sledgehammer heads for anvils. I have nice anvils. I've got, a hydraulic press. I've got all these different things. And boy, that was an awful lot of work. So to learn the appreciation of it, it was a beautiful experience to take something that had a previous life. And yeah, hey, if it failed, it failed. But, for me, it was I wanted to know more about it. And that's the reason why I did it. It's not if I was under the wire and, hey, I need to make this for a customer, I'm not going to do it that way.
You just brought up something that I want to ask you about, too. You brought up anvils. Now, I've been around since the first time I came here and made
like
the
town of Anvil?
Well,
Cleona? Yeah.
Anvil, like the tool, an anvil, a heavy thing.
The thing that you drop on Roadrunners.
Roadrunner and Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote.
The thing I'm leaning on.
Exactly.
God, I'm falling in now, Buck. Sorry.
In today's world, are they like collectible items? Like, are these like things?
Wow.
I've kind of gone down that rabbit hole of Instagram and.
Boy, if you find one at an auction, I'll tell you, depending on who's there, you could pay upwards of $6, $8, $10 a pound.
So
that's what I like.
Back in the day, and by back in the day I mean 15 to 10 years ago, anvil price was based off of what? 3 things, Jay? We would say weight, rarity, and then who manufactured it.
Well, and I'd also put in there that it also depends on how responsive that anvil is.
Exactly.
Can you take a 1-inch ball bearing and drop it on the top of the anvil? How much return force does it have?
Right.
Because that tells you how good that tool is. And so, yeah, I mean, they were based on that. And then all of a sudden when certain TV shows came out and, we see this big resurgence and people wanting to learn.
Right.
Boy, those prices went sky high. And the other thing driving it was also people who wanted nostalgic items to throw in their garden.
Now,
just to have around the house.
And aren't there like different types, like different anvils for different
London
types
pattern,
of cultures?
yes.
And
There's specific
purposes.
anvils. There's anvils out there just for making saws. They're called Sawyer anvils. They look like big giant squares. We have, if you guys remember, we have some Japanese style anvils in the shop. They're essentially just a block of steel.
And you made those.
Yeah, but I do like 95% of my forging on those. I absolutely love them.
They really, really reciprocate your work because, like, if you guys remember last week when you were in, I mean, we're sitting here now and you can kind of see the London pattern that's in front of us. That's a knife pattern.
Yeah, cheerio.
Cheerio. I mean, but it's this anvil here is actually cast steel. There's other anvils that are cast iron with a tool steel plate. There's also what we call ASOs. Those are the things that you'd find at that Harbor Freight place. That's an anvil-shaped object.
Okay.
It looks like an anvil, but it's just literally cast iron, and it's going to be very dull. What's going to happen is as you expend that energy without that return force, you're going to end up hurting yourself. And, repetitive stress injuries are a really big thing for us.
A big thing for classes. You notice that when guys start swinging their hammer, they're very on the carpentry side of swinging their hammer.
Very timid. You're not moving a lot of
They hold their hammer
material
at the very end. They're not very choked up on it. And they're not really trying to control it. They're just swinging it, and it's hitting the steel. If you watch either me or Jay, when we're forging a piece, we're kind of choked up on our hammer, and each strike has purpose behind it. It's not just a random smack on the steel.
I've always been big in saying that, for a lot of these guys starting out, you'll see them, they take, 2,000 hits to finish something. Yeah. But I can do that. I can do that in 80 to 120 hits. It's about putting that exactly where it needs to be.
Sure.
And trust me, the older you get, the more efficient you want to be. Because, let's face it, it's not always an easy job. But I know guys who are in their 80s and 90s still forging.
Yeah,
and
efficiently
they
too.
do the exact same thing. It's don't hit it 1,000 times, hit it 100 times correctly.
Awesome. Well, Jay, I hate to cut you off, but as you might already know, we do a segment called the Fast Five.
Oh God, I've been dreading this.
And since Mac's here, we could probably expand it out to the Fast 10.
Oh, boy.
Fast 5 times 2? Is that what we're going for? I know we don't like to do math.
Bucky, you're quick today.
All right, well, we're doing math.
It's one of those things where I sit in the car, and as I'm driving, I always hear them asking the Fast 5. And the worst part about it is I go, Boy, if I was asked that question, here's how I'd answer
he
it.
answered
And
it.
now I'm sitting here, and you guys are going to ask me this question.
You already know your answer.
The hot
No.
seat.
You know, quit.
The problem is
quit
with
your
Jay, it's probably
malarkey,
different
Jay.
every time.
I know it is. It is.
What makes me happy today? So, the number one, I will just say this: what makes you happy, Jay?
Just a job well done. Being able to start something and take it from beginning to end, and really just seeing how a project, comes together. And that, at least professionally, that's what makes me happy. Otherwise, it's my kids. I love my kids, and they're just they're a blast.
Mac, how about you?
For me, I kind of go back to what I learned in Scouts and even in art class way back, was keep it simple.
Tying knots.
Yeah, tying knots.
That's cool.
Yeah. For me, what makes me happy is just keeping things simple and clean. If I can make a piece that's exactly KISS.
Yep.
If I can make a piece that's very simple, very clean, and still pulls off exactly what I want, happy.
Great. Yep. All right, we're going to move to the second question. Jay, I'm going to modify this one a little bit, but what is the one thing that you do every day to prepare you for your lifestyle? Not necessarily outdoor, but every day is your lifestyle.
Drink a cup of coffee. That actually
Start with coffee.
Yeah. I mean, it's gotta. You gotta wake up. And, the one thing that I do, believe it or not, you guys probably, some of you know that I'm actually really big into the outdoors. I love hunting and fishing.
We didn't even get to ask you about your kayak. I got a lot of questions on that. Maybe next time we get you on, we'll go over some of that.
For your Pimp My Kayak episode.
Yeah.
But, one of the things that, especially for what I do, the tools that I make, being out there and getting outdoors and being able to use what I make really helps me.
Cool.
So I guess maybe I can write my fishing equipment and hunting equipment off as research and development for my job. Aside from the cup of coffee, it's getting out there and finding out what people use my tools for, and just constantly learning something new.
All right, Mac, how about you?
For me, it would be more, I stretch every morning, and that's super, super important because being in here, turn myself into a pretzel.
It's amazing if you don't this is pretty physical. And it's one of those things where you can pick something up and it might only weigh 10 pounds and you don't think about picking up 10 pounds of something, but you do it wrong.
Do it 1,000 times.
Oh boy. It can be game over for a week.
I can attest to the fact that stretching is probably important because I think I'm still sore from when we were there a while back. And it's important. It's important.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So this is actually supposed to be the Fast Five, so bring it on. Let's go.
Oh, you're a critic now.
Oh yeah, come on. I listen to the podcast enough.
Gotcha. All right.
A critic now.
We'll let you know when the answers are wrong, though, bud. Hey, Jay, what's the one thing that I'm going to switch this up as well? Pick.
You go ahead.
What's the one thing that you can't live without in this shop?
Oh boy, live without in this shop. Man, I look over and I see my 120-year-old drill press, and I absolutely love that thing.
Oh, I do too.
It's just
that's what kind they had back when I was in.
You probably had that in shop class. But
isn't that when you guys had to walk uphill both ways to school?
Yep.
Yeah. I would either say my drill press or
Mac, because that's who you were staring at him pretty hard when that question was being asked.
And Mac
Seems
as
like,
well.
yeah.
I mean, Mac's one of those guys that, while he's not always egging me on to do something, when I see him doing something, I go, boy, I'm really being lazy this week. Crap, I really need it. I can't let this young kid show me up, so I got to do something, even more over the top.
He's a source of motivation.
Yeah.
Excellent. Mac, how about you, bud?
Honestly, and I'm going to be a little bit realistic here. We really couldn't live in this shop without our anvils.
Oh yeah,
it's the most essential tool in here. I can make a hammer out of a rock if I wanted to. Let's be honest here, but without an anvil, man, we ain't doing anything.
Gotcha.
That's a very good answer.
Yeah.
All right, then let's take it to the next level. Let's get a little deep here. Jay, I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to start with Mac, so bear with me. Mac, what are you most proud of?
Oh, man. Oh. You know, I'm most proud of not necessarily a certain project, but it sounds a little conceited, but I'm proud of where I've come from, what I've become through, you know, learning from Jay and learning from even just from everyone else that I'm around. You know,
Sure,
I learn
that's
from the
cool.
students every weekend. You know what I mean? I see certain things that I'll either notice that I'm doing or I see that they're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll try to say, oh, man, you know, if you just change the angle of your offhand or your tong hand a little bit, you can get that bevel pulled out just a little bit more, man. You know, try to focus on that. And, you know, it's I really think, like I said, the thing I am most proud of is just my progress and the progress of the shop in general.
Yeah.
Because we've come from struggling sometimes to book classes to now they're full every weekend.
That's great.
Turning people away.
That's great.
Yeah.
It doesn't shock me at all to hear that because I mean, you guys are doing quality work down there. It's amazing. All right. Now you had time to think about it, Jay.
So I would be remiss
Where
if
are
I
you
did
at?
not say, first and foremost, in my personal life, I'm most proud of my children. They are
a good dad
an
answer.
absolute, source of inspiration every
It's a hell
single
of a dad
day.
answer.
And I have a 4-year-old daughter who just keeps me on my toes all the time. Questions come out of her mouth that I would never have imagined asking my parents at 4 years old. But professionally, I would say it's this shop. This shop is much more than just me. It's not Jay Stekervetz, as a forge. It's Underhill Forge. And this is a group of like-minded people. I brought Mac in because he fits with the mold of where I want this to go. It's not just about what I make. It's about the progress that he's made.
Yeah.
Basically starting out as, a kid who wanted to learn how to do
He was
this.
a kid with a dream.
Yeah. And,
free to dream.
So it's really cool. And I mean, when I first started out, it was in an old garage that was a rundown carriage house behind a rented apartment that I had gotten permission to be in, and I shared it with a guitar maker.
I hope.
Wow.
And
Oh man, I remember you showed me that shop.
Yeah,
It's right across from Boobies Brewery. Yeah,
exactly.
Last time we went to get food there, you're like, "Hey, it's my old shop."
It's really crazy to go, wow, that's where this whole thing
I used
started.
to do that stuff there, yeah.
And, actually, this was my first anvil, man, I look around and I pinch myself going, this is mine. This is what, we've
That's
worked
cool.
for, and this is what we've been able to accomplish. And
That's
so
cool.
I'm really proud. Seeing the students come through here, teaching was the hardest thing for me to ever begin to do because I was always worried about my own skills and about my own possibility of, failure in doing that. But really, every single week we see these people who, from all different walks of life, who come in here never having done it before, and they walk out and they've really accomplished something really, really well. And so I'm very proud of what they can do.
I know this is a fast five, Jay, but I'm going to take this opportunity to toot my horn a little bit.
Toot.
But my knives kind of look like the first knife we made together. The ones I made kind of look a lot like the first one we made together. So it's stuck. You're doing something, boy. I'll tell you that. Having said that, now that you guys got to share that moment with me, which is huge.
Unforgettable.
The honor is
very.
I mean,
Yeah. I want to know what's next. What is the bucket list for Jay and or Underhill Forge? What is the next level?
Wow. Man, on my bucket list, I want to do something that I've had this project in mind, and I've wanted to do it for such a long time. And I don't really want to talk too much about it, but I want to bring the craft to other people in a way that just hasn't been done before.
Sure.
And, it's something that we've been working on in the background, and the moment it's actually cemented,
Well, we
we're
would
going to let you know what it is.
We would love to have that exclusive, Jay, if we could.
But other bucket list things are getting out, say kayak fishing with all of you guys would be really kind of nice.
We go.
We are local.
Yeah.
We fish the same watering holes, just not at the same time. So,
yeah,
it's true.
Very cool. How about you, Mac? Anything?
Oh, bucket list for me. Oh my. I'd love to earn the title of Mastersmith one day.
Yeah.
Joining one of the guilds, either the bladesmithing guild or just the actual blacksmithing guild, and earning that title of Mastersmith, and not just being in it for so long that people just end up calling you Mastersmith. Because there's a lot of guys that we know. I'm going to make a shout out now to Baltimore Knife and Sword. Some of the guys down there, like the Stagmar brothers and Ilya, those guys aren't necessarily official guild recognized guys, but people all over the internet call them Master Smiths all the time. And I commented on Stagmar's Instagram not too long ago. Matt, he is one of the main guys down at Baltimore Knife and Sword. Like I said, he said he just joined the ABA.
Yeah, American Bladesmith Society.
Yep,
ABS,
the American Bladesmith Society. And he said, I had been called a master bladesmith for 4 or 5 years now. I think it's time for me to actually earn the title.
Yeah, what's that take? Is that something?
It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of honing your craft, a lot of paying your dues,
a lot of honing, probably a lot of fire.
Pun intended. A lot of honing of your skills.
I was actually in it for several years, and it was just one of those. Yeah, there's an awful lot to do, and it's as a guy who was trying to earn a living, it was impossible for me to jump through hoops and do all these other little things. But
that's cool.
It would be something cool to do. I think
it's like a black belt or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those things. It's like it's
good comparison.
You could get the notoriety of that master bladesmith. You could get called a master bladesmith after X amount of years of just doing it, or you could actually join the guild and work through it. And they have certain tests, like from apprentice to journeyman, you have to make 100 knives. Or is it 20? I think it's 100.
Well, let's go with
it all depends on which one you're looking at.
It all depends on who you're doing.
Let's make it harder.
You have to take those knives then, and to test your heat treating processes, you have to take that knife, put it in a vise, and bend it at a 90-degree angle without it snapping.
Well, actually, there's a couple of things before that. First off, you have to take a 2x4 and you have to cut it twice.
Yes.
Jeez.
And then after you cut the 2x4 twice, you have to cut a 1-inch sisal rope that's free hanging, no weights hanging underneath it.
This is actually where the whole knife for death thing came from.
And then you bend it 90 degrees.
Gotcha.
You're only allowed to have a crack within 1/3 of the material in the edge.
Jeez.
If it's on the spine, you instantly fail. So it's allowed to crack at the edge where it's supposed to be harder.
Sure.
But on that spine, it has to be able to take that 90-degree bend. It doesn't have to stay at 90 degrees. It just has to bend to 90 degrees and come back. And there's also a whole part where after you cut through the 2x4 and the sisal rope, you have to show that it can shave the hair off your arm afterwards.
After you do that?
So a lot of guys,
it has to stay sharp. There's an awful lot going on.
So a lot of guys, they don't feel as though that's worth their time because they figure, I just made all these 100 knives, now I'm just going to ruin them, right? Well, if that's 100 knives at $100 a piece,
yeah, gotcha.
That's quite a lot of money.
And I guess, it's a true representation of your skill. If your piece is able to do that, man, that is quite an accomplishment.
That is a true example of a heirloom piece.
I can tell you, I am not going to do any of those things with the knife that I made a few weeks ago.
My favorite was there was an old guy at shows who used to, instead of doing this whole ABS thing, or whatever, all these different knife-making guilds, instead of doing that, he used to take a large barn nail and he'd lay it down and hack through it with a knife and show that it had great edge retention.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, that's thank you for letting us be a part of your life.
Absolutely.
Even for a weekend, and then and actually having us back in the forge after we came and ruined your place.
Just answer me this: is this the very first time that you guys actually traveled to a location specifically to have a this Sonic Campfire. I mean,
no, we've traveled before, but
damn, I thought I had some sort of honor there.
Like the class and everything like that, and the whole experience, and rolling out the red carpet, so to speak, for us.
I mean, the lunch was incredible.
The food.
Unbelievable.
We don't advertise that too much.
I don't advertise.
Sure.
Remember that whole thing where I said I started off in the restaurant industry?
Yeah. There you go.
Well, that came in handy.
Kind of learned a little bit there.
So
anybody that knows me knows that I didn't. I'm not going to forget about mentioning the food. So.
I travel with my stomach, so.
But I just appreciate it, and the things that you were able to extract from us. It's just inspiring, that we could produce some knives like that with your guidance.
It was awesome.
I can't thank you enough, and I do follow your page, so it's I get to see knives being like this made every week, and I know it's not a fluke, but no, we're very, very proud of our work, and you guys bring it out of us.
Well, you guys, you started off as friends, and then I started listening to your podcast, and hey, you guys actually have some talent. That's pretty good. Kind of like that. And now several of you have actually been here and made stuff, and so you're not just great friends, you're not just great podcasters, you're also pretty damn good students.
Well, Will is, yeah.
I don't know. You guys all did a really, really good job this weekend. It's rare that we get a weekend where everyone knows each other, which makes it
makes it so much more enjoyable.
A lot easier.
Sure.
So much easier.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for putting your faith in us. We try to say that every weekend. It's not necessarily about our skills. It's more or less about you guys trusting us. To teach you.
We are so very humbled by people putting their faith in us. That is just a great thing.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, Bucky.
Where can people find you?
You can find us at underhillforge.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, underhill_forge, and also on our Facebook page, Underhill Forge. And if you message there, I have to say I don't Facebook at all, so you'll pretty much be talking back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
He's one of those young kids. He's so into the Facebook. The last time I did it was MySpace.
Awesome.
Well, normally this is the part where I would say, so Jay, thanks so much for your time. Why don't you hang on the line so we can get you some of Charlie Moore's No Offense spices?
Oh, yeah.
But good news, bud. We love the food that you made for us the other week. We're looking forward to what you're going to be making for us when you're using these fancy new spices, but we brought them along, so...
Awesome. I can't wait to try them out. I listened to that episode, and, man, I was like, I want some of those.
Yeah. So hang on the line after we're done here.
Sure thing, Ryan.
We'll get some information so we can ship them to you all the way from the truck right outside here.
Awesome. Sounds great. I hope it doesn't take long.
No, it should. Quick and easy shipping.
Free shipping and handling.
That's right.
You guys are the best.
No, Jay. Thanks again.
Yeah,
you and Mac have been great. We appreciate the time you spent with us when we were down there, and now that we're back, giving us this time out of your busy days to talk it over with everybody so everyone else can hear what's going on.
Just like I say to all my students, thanks for putting your faith in us. I really enjoyed having you guys there the other week. And, thanks for all the shout-outs. You guys do an awesome job, and it's actually an honor to be here.
Very cool.
Great.
Thank you. Hey, guys, don't forget, this episode was brought to you in part by Moses Family Jerky.
Mm-hmm.
You got to head on over to mfjerky.com, check out everything they got going on.
mfjerky.com.
Jerky, snack sticks, the coffees, they got it all. Check it out. Make sure you use that promo code
Jerky Pursuits 15.
Get 15% off your entire order. The whole website, boys.
Everything.
Whole website, boys.
Love me some MF Jerky. There it is, fellas.
Oh.
Yepper.
Another one in the books.
It was awesome.
Good stuff, guys.
Good to be on
stuff.
location.
Hey, all things America. It's rolling on. July is on fire.
Stars and stripes.
I love me America month.
All right, guys, let's get the Forge out of here.
Yep.
See y'all.
America.
Rig 'em weedless.
Trial and error is one thing, but really there's no such thing as a screw-up until the building burns down, I guess. But,
Right.
Because a lot of times, anytime that I tell someone, "Oh, I'm a blacksmith,"
Oh, you make horseshoes.
and they're like, "Oh,
Please God,
yeah,
no."
exactly."
Could you make me one to put over my door? And
I
did you
could.
get that
I
quick?
could. However, I don't know how it would be on a horse's foot.
Can you make belt buckles?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Bucky needs a rust belt.
We do need to make that.
We're
a
gonna make an
thing.
order for a rust belt.
Blacksmiths don't make mistakes. We make smaller knives.